Hi, and welcome to session 3 of Compassion Camp. I'm so glad you're joining me for our at-home vacation Bible school this summer. So far, we have talked about empathy and showing empathy at the table in session 1. And in session 2, we talked about being brave and showing compassion for our neighbors by being brave. Today is all about showing compassion to ourselves and showing love for ourselves and doing things that make us happy, doing things that show love for us. So before we get started, let's go over what we're going to need out of our bags today. So you're going to need crayons, scissors and string, and a piece of construction paper. Again, it can be any color. You're also going to need your mural that we've put together and been working on. And you're also going to need your hanger, door hanger or wall hanger. Looks like mine has gotten a little bit tangled, so I will have to fix that. So go ahead and get those things ready and we will get started. As we look at our Bible story today, we're going to be talking about the two very most important commandments that Jesus tells us. But in order to fully understand these two commandments, we have to really fully understand and begin to know how wonderful and loved each of us are. So our story today comes from the book of Mark, and it's chapter 12, verses 28 through 31. And then we're also going to be talking a little bit about Deuteronomy 6. And we're going to be talking about the greatest commandments that we are given. So it says, Jesus and the disciples spent a lot of time in Jerusalem. One day, he was at the temple, a place where people gathered to worship God. And he was teaching and telling stories. A lot of people listened eagerly, but many had questions. The temple leaders and elders were unsure of him and asked, "Who gave you the power to do and say these things?" Some were jealous and wanted to trick him. So they asked, "Should the people pay taxes?" Others were worried and asked him, "What happens in the resurrection and the afterlife?" Then one temple leader was curious about Jesus. He saw that Jesus was wise and kind. He asked him, "Which one of God's laws or commandments is the most important?" Jesus answered, "The first is that we all know, 'Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with your mind, and with all of your strength." Before the temple leader could ask more, Jesus went on. "The second is love your neighbor as yourself. These two are the most important of God's laws." Now let's listen to that second one again. The second is love your neighbor as yourself. Now, first, to be able to love our neighbors as ourselves, we have to fully be able to understand what it means to love ourselves and care for ourselves. So I want you to think for a minute. How do you show love to yourself? And how do you care for yourself? So think about that for a second. Okay, so we just finished up our Bible story. And I would like for you to get out your sheet to color. And as you begin coloring, I'm going to ask you some questions to kind of think about. I want you to think about what it means to love ourselves. How do you show love for yourself? How does having love for ourselves help us to love others and to love God? I want you to imagine if you had been in that temple where they were asking all of those questions. What do you think it would have been like to be there? Do you think it would have been a little overwhelming? People trying to, I don't know, ask harsh questions and hard questions? What would it be like to hear Jesus remind the people of God's most important rules to live by? How do you imagine the disciples were feeling as they were listening to the religious leaders asking these questions of Jesus? Why do you imagine that the religious leaders were unsure of Jesus? Why were they questioning him? I want you to think about that as you finish coloring. Okay, so once you have your picture colored and cut out, we'll get ready to hang it on our door hanger. So we need our string, and I'm going to make my string today, I think, a little bit shorter. Oh, I didn't have tape. So you're also going to need tape and probably a pencil today. So let's get those things. Okay, so we're going to tape our string onto the back of our paper. And then we're going to hang it. And I made my string a little bit shorter today, so I can try and stagger my pictures. I've got a little helper today who is really enjoying our lesson. Okay. Well, it didn't stagger as much as I thought it would, but there we go. We have our third picture. So we have our at the table, to the neighbor, and for myself. And then we can just lay it to the side so we can work on it again for session 4. So now go ahead and get your mural out. We're going to work on finding some scenes in our picture that look like someone is enjoying something for themselves, doing something that makes them happy. So Hayden is making himself happy today by playing. So you're going to need your crayons. And some things that I notice are a child playing in their playhouse, and it looks like he or she is playing by himself. But I'm sure that makes them happy, playing in their playhouse. I also see some people down here exercising or doing yoga, and they're doing that for themselves because that's something they enjoy doing, and it is something for themselves. I see someone down here drawing at the park, which must be a hobby that they do that makes them happy. And let's see. So those are some things that I see that people are doing for themselves that makes them happy. So go ahead and take a few minutes and color on your mural and see if you can find anything else that you think someone might be doing to make themselves happy and show compassion for themselves. So today we're talking about loving ourselves and showing compassion for ourselves. And one way we can do that, we need to be able to listen to our hearts and pay attention to what really matters to us. And we can show compassion for ourselves in a tangible way by doing things that bring us joy. So I want you today and every day to try to do something that brings you joy and take care of yourself by doing things that make you happy. It can be going outside and jumping on your trampoline. It can be going outside and blowing bubbles or doing sidewalk chalk. Maybe you like to draw, so you can use some paper and a pencil or crayons and draw a picture. Or maybe you enjoy doing planting and you want to go outside and plant flowers. Maybe you enjoy writing, so you want to journal or write a story. There's a whole list of things that you can do that brings you joy. Maybe you like reading, so you want to go sit in your room in a quiet place in your house, or maybe even outside and read some books. So I want you to try each day to find something that brings you joy so that you can show yourself love by doing something you love to do. So since today we're talking about loving ourselves, I wanted to do an activity with you that will make you happy and make you think positively about yourself. Because having good thoughts about ourselves makes us feel good, and doing things we enjoy makes us happy. So we're going to make an inspirational paper chain. And what you're going to need is some scissors, your pencil, tape, and your construction paper. You only need one piece of paper. And what you're going to do is we're going to cut some strips of paper. And I'll show you how to do that. You can make them as big or as small as you would like. The smaller you make them, the more pieces of paper that you will have. But they need to be large enough so that you can write on them. So here are my strips of paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to think of words or sentences about ourselves that are good, like good thoughts about ourselves. So maybe you're a good swimmer, and so you can write, I am a good swimmer. Or maybe you're a good reader, and so you can write that about yourself. Maybe you're really funny and you like to tell jokes, so you could write that down on one of your strips. So you're going to think of ideas and write one idea on each piece of paper. Now, another idea that you can do with these is maybe you can write a couple on them yourself, and then you could take a couple of strips and maybe take one to your mom and have her write a positive word or something that you're really good at, and she could write it about you. So maybe your mom thinks that you're a great helper around the house, and so your mom could write that down for you. Maybe your dad thinks you're great at basketball, and so your dad could write that down for you. And then once you have all of your strips with positive words of encouragement, you can make a paper chain. And you're going to need some tape for this part. And what you do is you close it and put a piece of tape on it like this. And then you take your next strip and you close it and you put a piece of tape on it just like this. And then you have a chain full of inspiring words about yourself that you can look at maybe when you're having a hard day or a bad day and not feeling great. You can read something that someone has written for you as a reminder to love yourself and how amazing you are. So in session 1, we talked about coming to the table and having empathy for others, seeing how others are feeling and feeling for them. In session 2, we talked about loving our neighbors and showing compassion for our neighbors by being brave. And today we talked about loving ourselves for who we are and doing things that make us happy, bring us joy. God's commandment to love others is what we talked about today. But before we can love others, we have to be able to love ourselves, and we have to understand how God feels for us and what God sees in us. So before we go, we're going to say our prayer, and then while you're coloring your prayer, I am going to read a book. So our prayer today says, Gentle One, thank you for your spirit within us, who guides, encourages, and strengthens us. Help us see ourselves through your eyes with love, kindness, and deep joy. May we love our bodies, treasure our hearts, and celebrate our spirits. Amen. Now, while you take time to color your prayer, I'm going to read a book called When God Made You. And this book is by Matthew Paul Turner, and it's illustrated by David Catrow. When God Made You. You, when God made you, God made you all shiny and new. An incredible you, a you all your own, a you unlike anyone else ever known. An exclusive design, one God refined, you're a perfectly crafted one of a kind. 'Cause when God made you, somehow God knew that the world needed someone exactly like you. You, God thinks about you. God was thinking of you long before your debut. From the very beginning, amid history and time, you, little one, never left God's mind. God imagined your eyes, your head's shape and size, and knew what you'd look like when you felt surprised. God pictured your nose and all 10 of your toes. The sound of your voice, God had it composed. The lines on your hands, your hair, every strand, God knew every detail like it was all planned. Out of billions of faces from cultures, all races, people God made from all different places. God knew your name, your picture is framed. God's family without you would not be the same. Because when God made you, this much is true, the world got to meet who God already knew. You, when God sees you, God delights in what is and sees only what's true. That you, yes you, in all of your glory, bring color and rhythm and rhyme to God's story. So be you, fully you, a show-stopping review. Live your life in full color, every tint, every hue. Discover, explore, have faith, but love more. And learn and relearn all that God made you for. Use your talents and passions, those gifts that God fashioned. Think up ideas and then put them to action. Because God loves you creating, your true self displaying, when light on the inside through art is portraying. When you make believe, the stories conceived, the heroics, the magic, those tricks up your sleeve. When you dance alone, spinning like a cyclone, being whoever, whatever, in a world all your own. God smiles, and here's why. In the spark of your eye, a familiar reflection shines bright from inside. Because when God made you and the whole world oohed and awed, in heaven they called you an image of God. You, when God dreams about you, God dreams about all that in you will be true. That you, God's you, will be hopeful and kind, a giver who lives with all heart, soul, and mind. A dreamer who dreams in big and small themes, one who keeps dreaming in journeys upstream. A mover, a shaker, a lover of nature. A builder of bridges, you, the peacemaker. A you who views others as sisters and brothers and lives by 3 words: love one another. A confident you, strong and brave too. You being you is God's dream coming true. Because when God made you, all of heaven was beaming. Over you, God was smiling and already dreaming. So that's a great book to remember that all of us are unique and we're all loved by God, and God has made us all special with different talents, different interests, different hobbies, things that make us special. So find those things that bring you joy and do them so that you can find joy and happiness, so that you can love others and show love for yourself. I look forward to seeing you for session 4. Thanks for joining me today.
I have love to share with the whole wide world, and I start with loving myself. When I take good care of my heart